Gohan. What are we gonna do with you? Oh, I know! Let's have a conference! Discussion! Hey guys, MasakoX here. As we all know, Gohan is a very interesting character who was meant to be one of the figureheads of Dragon Ball Z. From the very start, the purpose of Gohan was to not only make the Saiyans more relatable, as well as to move on to the next generation, but it was to make the journey of Gohan something we all got to share. And for the most part, it did work. All the way up until the Cell Saga, we saw Gohan having to come to terms with almost as much as his father did. He was half Saiyan. His tail hid a dark secret, and his power was enormous. Once described to be by Vegeta as the best of anyone on Earth with the most potential, even amongst full Saiyans, yeah, that is something really hype-worthy, so what went wrong? Well, as we have described in previous videos on the matter, Gohan's plot ran out of steam. Just when Toei Animation thought that, it had the means to make Gohan the central character in the Buu era, to bring Gohan to the conclusion that he deserved into the next generation. Because let's be real, Toei's intentions with those visuals at the beginning of the second opening of Dragon Ball Z, that was all about Gohan and his time in high school and being the leader of the Z Fighters. Now that Goku was in the other world, seemingly never to return for the duration. But no, it wasn't meant to be. Why? Was this all part of the plan from the beginning? Did the creator of Dragon Ball wish to do the same to Goten or Trunks that he'd done with Gohan? Bring in the next generation? Rekindle that spirit from the earlier parts of Z? Nope, on both accounts. It's very simple, much like with many of Akira Toriyama's statements. In Daizenshuu 2, Toriyama's response when asked about placing Gohan in a leading role was short and sweet. I intended to put Gohan into the leading role. It didn't work out. I felt that compared to Goku, he was ultimately not suited for the part. Oh, so that was it? Gohan just wasn't main character material? I'm sorry, what? We'd seen Gohan go all out and break through his limits in the previous arc, achieving Super Saiyan 2, the first time anyone had ever done it, and saving the world from the likes of Perfect Cell, one of the most nefarious and yet engaging villains the show had ever seen, and then Toriyama stopped. I don't know why I'm surprised, really. This has happened before with characters in the show, even to Gohan's own mother. In a couple of interviews prior to that one, Toriyama had mentioned that he had run out of ideas for people like Chi-Chi and Launch, even beginning to resent Chi-Chi, those characters, because of his lack of ideas, keeping them around only to chastise himself out of spite for some bizarre reason. He was doing the same, albeit to a lesser extent, with Gohan. He'd run out of ideas and didn't know what to do with him. But wait, Masako, Gohan's got some potential left in him, surely. And yes, you are right with that. Potential unleashed. His ultimate powers were meant to be the next great power-up that was given only to the likes of Gohan. This was his to conjure with, at the behest of the Elder Kai, after having to put up with a uniquely Toriyama-esque training regimen. No traditional fisticuffs or anything. No hyperbolic time chambers here. Just wait for an old man to dance around you for a day or so, and you no longer need to go Super Saiyan ever again. That sounds like a win-win. Totally easy street. However, the main thing I wish to discuss today is that notion that they have run out of ideas for Gohan. Two episodes came to my mind. Episodes 118 and 119. These episodes focused on Gohan and Piccolo, with the second episode fixed squarely on Piccolo and his withdrawal from the tournament. In Daizenshuu 2, also, Toriyama stated that his favourite character was most likely Piccolo, and that might explain why he had his redemption arc with Gohan, the focus of Z. It meant that he could keep the Namekian around much longer because he liked him. It reminded him of the King Piccolo arc, and deservedly so. That arc was really good, and I'm pretty sure that Toriyama had fond memories. Must have been hard watching Piccolo though, just falling out of the arena and not using his stretchy arms to stay in. But we're getting sidetracked here. My point is that with Gohan's story sort of done after he was absorbed by Buu, Toriyama had essentially told us, yep, I'm kind of done with this. I mean, the same could be said for many other people in that arc, to be fair. There is a glimmer of hope though, because Super actively tried to give Gohan a new lease of life. Something that I do commend quite a bit. At least they tried. In my time on YouTube, I've given credit where credit's due, and conversely, I've taken away said credit for the times when Gohan felt mishandled. The second arc of Super, Resurrection F, was that time where Gohan's place in the story was at its worst. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you can agree with me on that one. But then we got Gohan trying to take the situation seriously and promising to improve himself. And despite some setbacks as well as some ice cream, as well as the allure of a conference being too strong sometimes, we got to the point around the late 80s of Super episodes where Gohan had not only gotten his bang back down, finally, he had gotten his ultimate power back. Something that we had no idea you could actually lose. I thought it was permanent. But hey, that's a retcon thing that we're going to talk about another time. Despite the promise of seeing him fight alongside his father in the last seconds of the tournament, like we did see for the 9th ending visuals, we were promised that Gohan would stick it through to the end with his new powers. We never got that. You know, Gohan could stand shoulder to shoulder with his old man and realize his potential, really cap off a delightful recovery and redemption. No, he went down with Dispo whilst acting like a true leader, I will admit that. At least Frieza recognized this. Okay, it was an alright conclusion, but not the one that we were promised. So what do we get out of all of this? Well, Gohan, okay, didn't embarrass himself and acted with bravery and respect, which did lead him to best the 3rd strongest Pride Trooper of Universe 11. It's not a bad way to end up after a very noticeable case of hot potato on the part of the writers. Like, seriously, they were going like, no, you deal with Gohan. No, you deal with Gohan. Seriously, they really didn't know what to do with him between episodes 30 and 76. After such a statement from Gohan to Piccolo, I want to train and get stronger again. That is pretty conclusive about what you want to do. And then he suddenly were like, well, I kind of want to do it, but I got a conference. Yeah. Within 2 episodes. After all that we've seen in Super, can we say whether Gohan has wasted his time in seeking to gain strength once more? Well, now that I've had some time to think about it, yeah, kinda. The shows are a victim of their own success. Dragon Ball is just too big. As a result, certain characters have become pop culture icons, with huge swathes of fans across the world who like these characters for who they are at the height of their popularity. You know, their personas, and as a result, you can't do much with them that may affect that elixir, that combination that made them as popular as they were, and the show itself a smash hit across the globe. Gohan is one of those characters because he was the focus of Z, or at least he was meant to be, and because of that focus, his arc from the Boo Saga was simply repeated here in Super. I mean, think about it. Gohan starts off softer and weaker than before, after dedicating his attention to an opposing pastime, the previous arc being his studies, and Super's was studying, and then being in a relationship, and then being a father. You know, it's almost like threefold. There is then something in the plot which brings the spotlight back to him, and the revelation that he's gotten much weaker and that he needs to step up again, or that Gohan himself realizes that he is not as helpful or as strong as he thinks he should be, and he needs to fix it. This then leads to a training montage of some description. He gets more powerful and catches up to everyone before being suddenly taken out of action all of a sudden. And there we have adult Gohan's arc in a nutshell. Note this is a very brief overview, but hey, I do a lot of abridged content. It's how I roll. The only difference between the two is that Gohan's second time around does end up with him not inside Boo's tummy or anything, but being praised for his quick thinking and doing his team proud as their captain. You know, we all thought it was like an empty thing, but it did carry some weight to it. That was better, I will admit, but don't they sound familiar in some way? You can't escape that. Gohan's time was indeed wasted. Why was this? I think it's because Toei didn't want to take risks, and Toriyama was not overly furnished in the ideas department in terms of Gohan's character arc, and quite frankly, I think a lot of the writers weren't quite sure either. You can easily argue that that was done back in Cell, and the only reason Gohan is around is because he's too big a character to simply push into the background. You can't just forget about him, people would notice. He is the dad of Pan, who is intended to be part of the next generation of fighters when we saw the end of Z. And we were so endeared to Pan, we wanted to stick around. Shame that changed after GT. So Gohan's new role in GT was to be there to be the father figure, the protector alongside Videl. He's the baby daddy at the end of Z. Wait, that sounds a little weird. I have said in the past that I commended the idea that Gohan had to find balance in his life between his studies and his family, and his role as part of the Z Fighters. That seemed like a really fascinating, dynamic that he'd have to do. It looked like he was about to figure out that solution and find a perfect equilibrium that will leave both of his lives content. We all know that Videl supports Gohan being a fighter, and helping to protect the world. So she is not an influence in telling him to not be a fighter anymore. The only pressure is on himself. We had that exact same struggle in the Boo saga, albeit less amplified and with the lack of a family. There was nothing holding him back. The imbalance came from a time of peace and Chi-Chi's desperate urge to get Gohan into a good school, and not to risk his life again after losing a husband in the Cell games. The ingredients do vary a little bit, but the instructions are the same pretty much. Again, the Saiyan Hybrid's time was wasted. Nobody can figure out a good way to expand his character and take him forward into the next iteration of Super, be it in the form of a movie, a special, or a new series indeed. Dragon Ball Super was just Gohan's adulthood take 2, Electric Boogaloo. What can we do to solve this? I've talked about how it's been wrong, so it would be bad of me to not try and offer up a solution. What can Gohan achieve going forward? Go to more conferences? Does he even get considered for training with Whis? Well, maybe. After the Tournament of Power, Beerus had changed his tune about the young man. In fact, acknowledging his existence at all. Before the tournament, he didn't really notice the boy's existence, only that, he was Goku's son, that was it, yeah? He respected Goten and Trunks more because at least they had the gumption and defiance to try and go up against the GOD. Gohan was just there. Now though, he gave Gohan a smile and commended his work. Perhaps this is the clue that we need. No, this is a clue, it's all conjecture or anything. I'm just trying to pass together a potential new development arc. Maybe Gohan's future is in the hands of Beerus. After seeing what his father could do, perhaps Gohan could be tested to see whether that potential runs in the family. As we know, Vegeta would easily back him up if asked about his power, because, Vegeta was doing that earlier on in the series. And after having his time being metaphorically wasted, with the same arc being repeated again, perhaps Toei needs to take a risk with Gohan and for Toriyama to sit up and listen that this plot thread needs to be investigated. Beerus taking on Gohan and his new pupil alongside Goku and Vegeta would be a great idea, and he deserves it after doing so well in the Tournament of Power. He has seen what the boy can do. He may not be as strong as his father or Vegeta, at least not yet, but he is immensely skilled in using what powers he does have to the maximum, and thinking about the problems that get in his way. That Piccolo did a great job in getting him fit to lead Universe 7 into the Tournament of Power, and aiding them to get the victory overall, and thus saving the Omniverse from potential erasure thanks to Android 17. It all was because Gohan was a good team leader. But what can Beerus do? Perhaps he can give Gohan the ability to tap into God Ki like we did with Good Boy 21 in our What If Cell Turned Good series. Check that out, by the way. Gohan could become a godlike Saiyan, mixing the powers of Potential Unleashed and God Ki together to stack on top of one another. You get a double boost. This could be like getting Super Saiyan 2 for Elder Kai's gift. Would it even work? I mean, maybe. If Toriyama did want to investigate it, he would make it work somehow because it elevates Gohan whilst also not taking too many risks. It's just him going off to train with Beerus and Whis. That's all he has to do. It's still Ultimate Gohan, but now keeping up with the Saiyans in a way that seems logical. So yeah, I think we might have found a way for Gohan to no longer be wasting his time in Dragon Ball. And it all comes from a smiling cat. But my greatest fear, that we're just going to get a repeat of this arc all over again in whatever we get. Gohan goes back to being a family member and forgets about all of his fighting once the tournament is over, because we didn't see him in the Broly movie at all. And then we have a big bad calm down and disgrace him, and he has to regain his footing, rinse and repeat, yada 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 yada. We've all been there before. I really do worry that that might happen. Let's just pray to the Kais and Kami that our idea of godlike Ultimate Gohan happens. So what do you guys think? Do you feel that Gohan's time was indeed wasted in Super? Is there a way at all that you can think of that this guy can be utilized effectively in the future? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!